He once wiped out an entire gang with his bare hands, but on this day, his dog was killed by a group of psychopaths. Fortunately, the dog had an owner even more ruthless than John. By the time he arrived, only a single shell casing remained on the ground. At that moment it felt as if the air itself had frozen. After discovering that his beloved dog had been killed, he did not roar in rage. He did not wail in grief. He simply dug a hole with his bare hands in silence. After burying his beloved dog, the fury inside Jack was completely ignited. He quickly identified the first target responsible for killing the dog. When that man out in the wilderness saw Jack standing there alone, he did not take him seriously at all. Cursing under his breath, he got into his car. What he did not realize was that he would soon pay for his arrogance with his life. Jack suddenly charged toward him at the speed of a 100-meter sprinter. But just after the man had shaken Jack off the car and was feeling smug about it, he discovered that Jack was completely unharmed, standing motionless in front of the vehicle. Just as the car was about to hit Jack, it suddenly screeched to a stop, and no matter how hard he tried, the doors and windows would not open. He could only watch helplessly as Jack approached step by step. By the time his companions arrived at the scene, they saw the horrific sight before them, and one of them fainted on the spot from terror. Until the moment they died, they could not understand it. They had merely killed a dog on a whim. None of them knew who they had actually offended to provoke such ruthless vengeance. When one of the attackers managed to escape and went looking for help, he thought he had finally been saved, but he was accidentally knocked unconscious with a stick. When he woke up again, he found himself tightly bound to a chair. It turned out that the owner of the house was just as ruthless. He had knocked the man out for one reason only: to find a husband for his daughter. He even declared coldly that the wedding would take place that very night. No matter how desperately the man struggled and begged for mercy, he still could not escape the final barrier of that door. However, just as the old man was crouched by the door listening with great satisfaction, the man's companion had already come up behind him. The old man glanced at the dagger in his hand. In order to ensure that his daughter could successfully complete the most important event of her life, he charged forward without the slightest hesitation. The companion killed 2 people in a row. The fat man nearby, witnessing the bloody scene before him, almost vomited on the spot. Holding back his nausea, he rushed outside and began throwing up, but he never noticed that Jack had silently appeared behind him. The fat man had just turned around. He had not even realized what was happening before Jack cleanly slit his throat with a dagger. When the companion inside the house sensed that something was wrong, Jack was already charging toward him. In his panic, he accidentally shot his own companion in the foot. He himself was sent flying by a kick from Jack. His kidney was impaled directly onto an iron rod protruding from the wall, and he passed out from the shock. Afterward, Jack carried another companion straight back home, but the moment he stepped through the door, he immediately sensed that something was wrong inside the house. At that very moment, the bald man hiding behind the wall was already frozen stiff with fear, not even daring to breathe. Jack looked around but found nothing unusual. What he did not know was that the bald man had quietly moved into his blind spot, but no one expected that the pungent smell of body odor in the air would still alert Jack. Realizing that he had been exposed, the bald man tried to sneak away, but his hand accidentally slammed onto a nail sticking out of the table. The sharp nail instantly pierced through his palm. The intense pain made his entire body tremble, yet he did not dare make a single sound. Covering his mouth, he endured the agony and pulled the nail out. When Jack lay down on the bed to rest, the bald man preparing to escape was shocked to discover that another one of his companions was hiding under the bed. He immediately lowered lowered his voice and warned him not to move, or both of them would die. But the companion thought the bald man would find a way to save him. What he did not expect was that the bald man abandoned him and secretly ran away, leaving the companion alone beneath the bed. However, the bald man had not gone far when he heard his companion's screams coming from inside the house, but he had already been scared out of his wits. How could he possibly still have the courage to go back and save anyone? In his blind panic, he failed to watch where he was stepping. One misstep, and he plunged straight into a bottomless swamp. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank. The muddy water quickly rose past his neck. At that moment, he finally broke down. He could not understand what he had done wrong, for fate to play such a cruel joke on him. Just as his entire head was about to disappear beneath the swamp, a rope suddenly landed in his hand. Like a drowning man clutching a lifeline, he gripped the rope with all his strength and desperately pulled himself onto the shore. Only then did he realize that it was his companion's horse that had saved him. At that moment, he finally understood the importance of his companions. Without stopping for a moment, he rushed to rescue them. He told the two men that he would never abandon them again. He even swore that he would personally kill Jack. But the moment those words left his mouth, Jack had already appeared behind him with an axe in hand. While Jack was dealing with the bald man, the two companions who had been tied up quickly untied the ropes around their bodies. The bald man was thrown directly toward them. The three men stared at Jack, grabbed whatever objects were nearby, and began smashing them at him frantically. But their resistance only enraged Jack even further. The three attacked together, yet they were still no match for him. After only a few exchanges, Jack knocked all three of them to the ground. Just as Jack raised the axe to put an end to everything once and for all, an unexpected twist occurred.
Братан, даже по-любому кегалам! До конца!
The man whose kidney had been pierced by the iron rod earlier had not died after all. Enduring excruciating pain, he forcibly pulled the iron rod out of his body. Then he grabbed a red-hot metal spoon and pressed it hard against his wound to stop the bleeding. At that moment, he was determined to make Jack suffer twice as much pain as he had endured. However, just as he prepared to fire a second shot, the gun suddenly jammed. Watching Jack advance toward him step by step, he had no choice but to fight him hand to hand. But even though Jack had just been shot, he was still no match for him. And during the violent struggle between the two men, the gun suddenly discharged by accident. The bullet struck a gas cylinder nearby with perfect accuracy. The pungent smell of gas instantly spread throughout the entire cabin. Jack seized the opportunity and wrapped a belt tightly around the man's neck. At this critical moment, the companions quickly grabbed a rope and restrained Jack. Working together, they tied him firmly to a wooden pillar inside the cabin. As the men smelled the gas filling the room, a bold idea immediately formed in their minds. They decided to blow both Jack and the cabin to ashes. Then, one of them lit a cigarette and walked out of the cabin in the coolest pose imaginable. He believed that the nightmare was finally over, but to his utter shock, after waiting outside for quite some time, there was no movement from inside at all. Just as he turned around in confusion, the cabin suddenly exploded. The fireball instantly engulfed the entire structure. Standing at the doorway, he was blown to pieces on the spot. Just when the remaining men finally breathed a sigh of relief and thought everything had come to an end, a hand suddenly emerged from the ruins. From that point on, the story held no suspense. In his own way, Jack made every person who had harmed his dog pay with blood, and with that the film came to an end.